Now that after creating and sending the HTTP request to the server, we need to listen to the port, and after listening to the port we will be able to set up a connection with the socket, and then with the help of server socket we can actually manage that port and would be able to continue the communication. So for that purpose I have created actually a start listening method, which would be actually listening to the port number. Here on we're going to pass on the port number with the help of parameter, and then I've actually created a Boolean value listening, which I've previously created in a previous video, that is actually private Boolean listening. So we are actually declaring it true, that yes, now the port is going to listen, the socket connection is going to listen. And then we created actually and started the server socket, which is actually used to handle the port number in this one. And then we actually assign that port number to the listening port, that is actually listening port. We have created this listening port above in the variables, as we have initially assigned it a number of 0, nothing else on that. And now we are actually assigning the real port number through which we're going to be actually communicating. And then I return 0 for if actually the server socket is made, and if it is listening to the port number, the defined port number, then I'm going to return the 0 in the exception. Now the next thing is that while listening means that while port is actually, we are actually listening to the port, in the meantime until the listening to the port is ended, you're gonna have to perform this step. So what is this step? This step is actually used to accept the connection, and it is actually, as you can see, that the server socket.accept means that we are actually accepting that specified port number, and then actually we are starting with the help of new receive connection class. New receive connection class is the same class from which we have extended the thread. If I just scroll to the up area, and there it is actually a receive connection class which is actually extending the thread. And now I'm going to get back to my code, that is, and then in the exception I'm going to return 2 if it is listening to the port and accepting the server socket and starting it, then return 2 in the exception. And the next one is actually server socket.close. After creating a connection to the port and then listening to the port here in this area, while listening we have actually accepted that server socket. Now you're gonna have to close it, because after every get is open you're gonna have to close it down too. So we are now actually closing the server socket after listening to it. And now we have actually provided a logger in the exception, input output exception, that if any kind of exception error occurs, then we're going to have to mention it by exception server socket. So exception when closing the server socket means that the error has appeared when we were actually closing the socket. And for this I'm going to return the number 3. So you can also return the number of your own choices, like 1, 2, 3. So I've just deleted with like that, and then I just return in here return 1 as a default Boolean data type, as it is actually a return type. So I've just actually returned 1, which means that yes, we begin to listening the port, and if we start listening the port, then it will be actually 1.